Welcome the anointed ones. Some people aren't mad because you did something to them. They're mad because you exist outside their control. Let that simmer. Because today's message is not about what you said or what you did. No, this is deeper. This is about how your very presence is causing confusion, obsession, even mild psychological dismantling in the minds of people who once thought they had life figured out, until you walked in. Let's be honest, you didn't kick over their table. You just sat down at it and suddenly everyone lost their appetite. Why? Because when a chosen one shows up, the energy doesn't lie, and neither do the reactions. In fact, psychological studies show that people can form a full-blown love or hate response to someone's energy within just 7 seconds of meeting them, before a single word is spoken. But what happens when that person carries not just energy, but divine assignment? Now that's when things get wild. That's when their compliments start feeling suspicious. That's when their support turns into subtle sabotage. That's when they don't know whether to clap for you or call the priest. You're not just triggering people. You're activating stuff in them they didn't even know was sitting in the basement of their soul, collecting dust. And now they're mesmerized, rattled, obsessed, and let's be real. Some of them look like they're one bad dream away from a nervous breakdown, just trying to figure out how you exist like this. So let's get into it. What did you do to them? Why are they low-key studying you like a final exam when all you did was be authentic in a world full of rehearsed personalities? Why are they both hypnotized and horrified by a person who never asked to be the main character in their storyline? Let's break it all the way down. Buckle up. This one's going to sting and liberate at the same time. Number 1, you shattered their illusion of superiority just by breathing. They thought they were the center of the universe until you showed up. Not with noise, not with arrogance, not even with a plan to outshine anyone. You simply entered the room being exactly who you are, and without trying, you exposed the truth. Their confidence was never real. It was just a performance that needed an audience who didn't know any better. But you knew better, and that alone was threatening. What really messed them up wasn't that you were loud or flashy. It was the quiet, grounded power you carried. You didn't compete, yet you somehow outranked the games they spent years mastering. The way you walk, the way you observe, the way you exist. It all carries a weight they've never felt before because it's not manufactured. It's not built on clout, followers, titles, or validation. It's built from pain turned into wisdom, rejection turned into strength, and truth turned into presence. You didn't come to impress. You came as proof that authenticity outlasts performance every single time, and that's what crushed them. Because deep down, they've spent their whole lives building a version of themselves they hoped people would admire. But you showed up and revealed that it's not about admiration. It's about alignment. And no one can teach that. It has to be earned in silence, in storms, in solitude. You earned what they tried to pretend they already had. They were used to being the biggest energy in the room, the one everyone looked to. But when you walked in, they didn't just feel small. They felt exposed. Not because you belittled them, but because next to your unbothered truth, their curated identity looked like a costume. And they knew it. That's why they keep asking, "What did you do to me?" As if you cast a spell. But the truth is, you didn't do anything to them. You just showed them who they've never truly been, and they can't unsee it. Number 2, you activated their spiritual amnesia. Now they can't unsee their own emptiness. You didn't just walk into their life, you triggered their memory, and not the kind they can explain with stories or timelines. You touched something spiritual, something ancient. You reminded them of a part of themselves they buried a long time ago, maybe even before they understood it. That inner voice, that knowing, that spark, they saw it alive in you. And instead of embracing it, they resented it. Because you didn't just show up with confidence, you came with clarity, and that exposed how lost they really were. They couldn't understand how someone like you could speak without effort and still hit harder than their loudest screams. How your energy felt familiar, like truth they've run from their whole life. You didn't tell them who they were, you didn't preach, but your presence activated something they locked away, something they were taught to ignore in order to fit in. And when you activated it, it didn't come up soft. It came up with discomfort, with jealousy, with confusion, because now they could feel how empty their distractions really are. They tried to act like you were just another person, but something about you bothered them too much for that to be true. It wasn't your looks, your words, or your status. It was the way you made them feel around themselves, like they were out of alignment, like their soul wanted to sit down and listen when you spoke, and that shook them. People spend years building an identity based on survival, not truth. And then you show up and remind them of what they forgot. They used to be more. They used to dream. They used to feel deeply. But over time, they shut that off to protect themselves. And now here you are, fully awake, fully present, not shrinking, not chasing. That's what did it. You didn't break them. You woke something up that scared them. And now they don't know if they want to be you or destroy the part of you that reminds them of who they were meant to be. Number 3. You're proof that their manipulation has an expiration date. They thought they could play the same old games with you, the ones that always worked on everybody else. The little manipulations, the guilt trips, the half-truths, the silent treatments designed to make you chase. The fake support meant to keep you off balance. It worked before, so why wouldn't it work on you? What they didn't realize was that you weren't confused. You were just watching. They kept testing your reactions, waiting for you to crack, to fold, to beg for clarity. But you didn't move. And when you did, it was on your own terms. That's when the panic set in. Because what do you do with someone who doesn't fall for your tricks? What do you do when your best manipulation tactics fall flat like bad jokes at the wrong party? You weren't hard to read. You were just too deep for surface-level games. They couldn't bait you into chaos because you don't operate from ego anymore. You used to, maybe even would have fallen for it years ago. But now you recognize manipulation as weakness, not power. So instead of reacting, you observed. Instead of defending yourself, you disengaged. That drove them mad, because they didn't just lose control of the situation, they lost access to your energy. And that's the part they don't talk about. How addictive your peace was, how steady you were in storms they created. How your lack of response spoke louder than their entire performance. Because when their tactics didn't work, they had to face something they never wanted to believe. That maybe, just maybe, they weren't as powerful as they thought. Maybe the only reason they ever felt strong was because they were picking on people still healing. You didn't fight back. You didn't expose them. You didn't explain. You just didn't fall for it. And that was the exposure. That was the embarrassment. Because the moment you didn't take the bait, they had to sit in the silence of their own failed manipulation and realize they never had control. They just hoped you didn't know it, but now you do. Number 4, your authenticity burns through their curated personas like acid. You didn't learn to be real, it's just who you are. And that's a problem for them because everything they've built is a carefully constructed illusion. Their polished smiles, rehearsed words, and flawless appearances are all masks designed to hide cracks they don't want anyone to see. But your authenticity cuts through all of that effortlessly, like a spotlight exposing a hidden stage. You don't put on a show of depth or goodness, you live it, every moment. Your honesty isn't a tactic. It's a survival skill born from scars they try to cover up with makeup and smiles. You carry your pain openly, and instead of hiding it, you use it as fuel to shine even brighter. That rawness unsettles them because it shows the stark difference between real healing and fake perfection. They can't fake the kind of strength that comes from embracing every broken piece of yourself and still standing tall. You don't need to convince anyone of your truth. It's visible in your presence, in your eyes, in the way you refuse to shrink. Their polished facade can't compete with that kind of realness. It's uncomfortable for them to see someone so unapologetically genuine because it reflects the parts of themselves they're desperate to keep hidden. They're mesmerized by you because you represent something they've denied. That true power lies in vulnerability, that depth isn't about impressing others but about being true to yourself, no matter what. And beneath their fascination is a quiet shame. They envy your courage, your ability to bear your wounds openly and keep glowing. Deep down they wish they could drop their masks and be that fearless. But until then, they're stuck admiring from a distance, caught between awe and discomfort, mesmerized by your light but ashamed they can't match it. Number 5. You've got spiritual clearance they can't counterfeit. You move through spaces like you carry invisible keys. Keys they don't even know exist, let alone how to use. They watch you and feel a shift in the energy around you, something unexplainable but undeniably real. It's not about titles, money, or popularity. None of those things hold the power you walk in with. They sense it, but they can't touch it or fake it. Your spiritual clearance isn't something you earned by climbing ladders or collecting achievements. It's a birthright, a deep connection to a source they've been cut off from. When you enter a room, the atmosphere changes. People feel it in their bones, even if their minds scramble to find a logical reason. They feel small, not because you diminish them, but because you operate on a level they can't reach. They try to rationalize it with jealousy or resentment, but at the core, it's pure recognition. You hold something sacred that no amount of external success can buy. They try to compete with their accolades, their networks, their power plays, but it falls flat. It's like bringing a flashlight to a solar eclipse. You don't need to prove yourself because your presence alone is evidence enough. The problem for them is that your existence is a constant reminder that true authority comes from within, divine favor, spiritual alignment, things they've never had access to or even believed in. This invisible clearance you carry is your ultimate advantage. It's why they're mesmerized and unsettled at the same time. They can't counterfeit it, mimic it, or buy it. They only see it reflected in you, and unwillingly, they're forced to reckon with the fact that their status is just a cheap imitation of something far greater. And that realization shakes them more than any words ever could. Number 6. You operate on emotional intelligence that makes their power games look like child's play. You see through their tactics instantly, the petty power plays, the thinly veiled insults, the emotional traps designed to make you react. They expect fireworks, drama, or at least a crack in your armor. But instead you remain steady, unshaken, like a calm sea in the middle of a storm. That's what throws them off. Their usual tricks don't work because you don't meet chaos with chaos. You meet it with presence. You've learned to read people not by what they say, but by what they can't say. The hidden motives, the fear behind the aggression, the insecurity wrapped in arrogance. It's like you have a sixth sense for energy, and that makes their games look like child's play. They come at you expecting a fight or a meltdown, but all they get is clarity and calm. They quickly realize they're not dealing with someone who plays the victim or bends to manipulation. You're something else entirely, an oracle, a force that doesn't just react, but knows. That knowledge unsettles them because it means you're always 2 steps ahead. They can't predict your moves or understand your silence because it's rooted in wisdom, not weakness. This disconnect between what they expect and what you deliver creates obsession. They can't stop trying to figure you out because you don't fit into their usual categories. They're confused because they want to break you down, but every attempt only reveals their own limitations. They're mesmerized because deep down they recognize the power in your emotional intelligence, a power that exposes their emptiness and leaves them scrambling for control they never had. You don't just survive their games, you dismantle them without a single word. And that's why they both fear and admire you. Because you're a whole different level of presence they can't touch. Number 7. Your silence isn't mysterious, it's surgical. They mistake your silence for indifference or weakness, but it's anything but that. While they scramble to fill the space with noise, you're strategically observing every move, every word, every tiny shift in energy. Your silence isn't a gap to be ignored. It's a weapon sharpened by experience and intention. You don't waste words on the superficial or the petty. Your voice is reserved for moments that truly demand it. What they don't realize is that while they're busy trying to provoke a reaction, you're quietly dismantling their entire facade piece by piece. You see the cracks forming beneath their polished surfaces, the desperation masked by bravado, the fear disguised as anger. You watch the architecture of their ego crumble, not with noise or conflict, but with your calm, unwavering presence. Your silence cuts deeper than any argument or confrontation ever could. It speaks in volumes they can't comprehend because it bypasses the mind and goes straight to the core of their being. It's surgical. It isolates the exact weak spot and exposes it without a single wasted syllable. And because it's so precise, it rattles them more than any shout or accusation ever would. They try to break your silence with noise, but that just highlights how powerless they are against it. Your quiet strength isn't just absence of sound. It's an active force, a calculated pause that shifts the entire battlefield. They feel it as a vibration beneath their skin, a reminder that you're fully aware, fully in control, and fully unshaken. That's why they're so unsettled. They thought silence was empty space, but for you, it's a battlefield where their weaknesses are exposed and their power evaporates. And all the while, you don't even have to lift a finger. Number 8. You didn't reject them. You dismantled their fantasy of being irreplaceable. They never truly saw you. They only saw the version of themselves they wanted to believe existed when they stood beside you. It wasn't you they craved. It was the illusion of significance your presence gave them. You were their mirror, reflecting back a grandeur they could never create on their own. They basked in the glow you emitted, not realizing that what they adored was just a borrowed light, a temporary high that made their own shadows seem smaller. When you stepped away, it wasn't your absence that broke their world. It was the sudden silence where their inflated sense of self used to echo. Without you, their self-importance deflated like a balloon losing air. They weren't prepared to face the raw truth of who they are beneath the borrowed brightness. It's easier to cling to a fantasy than confront the dullness of ordinary reality. They thought they were indispensable in your life, but the truth is, you never needed them to define your worth. You didn't reject them because you hated them or because you wanted to hurt them. You dismantled the entire fantasy they built around your presence. This idea that they were irreplaceable, essential, or above others simply because they were near you. Now they're left with the haunting realization that the magic they chased wasn't inside them. It was always in you. And the harder they try to reclaim that feeling, the more painfully ordinary they feel without it. Their ego's echo has faded, and all that's left is a hollow space where their confidence used to live. You didn't just leave a void, you revealed the emptiness they've been trying to ignore. And that truth unsettles them more than any goodbye ever could. Number 9. You speak fluently in energies they can't pronounce. You don't wait for words to catch up because you're already fluent in the language of energy. While others fumble through conversations trying to mask their intentions, you're decoding the unsaid with precision. You sense the tension before it surfaces, the hesitation before the lie escapes, and the desperation before the mask slips. Your intuition isn't a vague feeling. It's a clear, sharp transmission that reveals truths most people don't even realize they're hiding. They walk into rooms thinking their facades are bulletproof, but you see right through them. Their carefully crafted stories, the rehearsed smiles, even their hidden agendas. They unravel instantly in your presence. Your aura acts like a radar, scanning the invisible lines of honesty and deception long before their words land. This doesn't just unsettle them. It shatters the foundation of their self-deception. Because when someone realizes they can't fool you, a crack appears, not just in their story, but in their entire sense of reality. They start doubting the narratives they built to protect themselves, wondering how you always seem 2 steps ahead. It's unnerving because you don't just catch lies. You expose the root fears and insecurities behind them without saying a word. You don't need proof because you're already reading the contract of their soul, not just the surface terms of their words. That kind of insight isn't common, and it's not something you can fake. They know it, which is why they're mesmerized and terrified at the same time. You became the mirror they never asked for but desperately needed, a mirror that reflects everything they tried to hide and forces them to question the reality they thought was unshakable. Number 10. Your boundaries are God-forged. Your boundaries aren't fragile lines drawn in the sand. They're God-forged walls built from every wound, every betrayal, and every lesson that taught you what's worth protecting. They came at you thinking vulnerability meant weakness, like they could slowly sneak past your defenses with half-truths and soft apologies. But what they ran into was something far stronger than coldness or indifference. It was a sacred firewall born from deep knowing. You've bled enough to recognize where the cracks can't be patched, where the line must be unbreakable. Your no isn't just a word tossed around casually. It's a full-body declaration, an energy so fierce it reshapes the space around you. It's not about shutting people out. It's about guarding the parts of yourself that demand respect and honor. That kind of boundary doesn't invite debate or second chances. It commands them to stop, and it leaves no room for negotiation. They're mesmerized because they've never encountered a refusal so absolute, so alive with purpose. Your no doesn't just close doors, it builds sanctuaries. It's a power statement that says, "This is my sacred space, you will not cross here." And that power rattles them because it's proof that you control your realm, your energy, your life. They realize quickly that pushing past your boundaries isn't just impossible, it's dangerous. That's why your boundaries aren't just lines. They're battles won, scars honored, and freedom fiercely protected. They see it and feel it, and it leaves them both in awe and in shock. Because you didn't just learn to say no. You became no, and that transformation is a force they'll never forget. Number 11. You are living proof that the spirit always outlasts the smear. They launched their attacks expecting you to crumble, expecting your name to be dragged through mud until it disappeared. What they didn't realize is that the spirit inside you is more resilient than any rumor or lie. Every smear they threw only fueled the fire within you. It didn't silence you. It amplified your truth in ways they couldn't see coming. You didn't waste your energy defending yourself because you knew something deeper was at work. The universe took over the narrative, revealing their true colors while your essence shone brighter. Their efforts to break you became a mirror reflecting their own darkness, and that reflection couldn't be hidden. People began to see through the smoke and mirrors, not because you shouted louder, but because your integrity was undeniable. It was like every false accusation became a spotlight on their own weakness, while your story was quietly rising from the ashes, more powerful and clear than before. That reversal rattled them. They expected victory, but found defeat instead. They didn't plan for you to come back stronger, for your spirit to outlast every attempt to tear you down. Your resilience was a shockwave they hadn't prepared for. The very lies meant to destroy you became the foundation of your comeback. You are living proof that no matter how deep the wounds or how harsh the attacks, the spirit is unbreakable. You embody the truth that darkness cannot extinguish the light. It only reveals how brightly it burns. And that is a reality they will never forget, because you turned their hate into your highest elevation. Number 12. You carry ancient codes that make modern minds malfunction. Your knowledge isn't something you looked up or earned through degrees and diplomas. It's a memory encoded deep within you, older than the systems they worship. There's a timelessness in your presence, a weight that modern minds can't process because it defies their logic and expectations. When they look into your eyes, they see something ancient, something that doesn't fit their neat little boxes of success and achievement. That unsettles them because everything they've built their identity on, titles, money, influence, is just surface-level noise compared to the depth you carry effortlessly. You don't just speak from experience, you speak from a source beyond time, a knowledge that can't be Googled or bought. This makes them question their own foundations because what you embody is a reminder of their spiritual bankruptcy, a deficit no amount of material wealth can ever cover. They feel exposed around you, like they're pretending to be whole when you radiate completeness. Your presence disrupts their illusions, and that's why they can't help but be mesmerized and thrown off balance. You're a living contradiction to their worldview, proof that true power isn't measured in bank accounts or social status. It's rooted in something deeper, something eternal. You carry codes that crash their systems because you don't just live in the now. You're connected to what came before and what will come after. And that connection scares them more than any threat because it's a silent declaration that there's a level of knowing and being they'll never touch. You're a walking paradox in a world that fears anything it can't control or understand. Number 13. You exist outside their karmic system, and that breaks their logic. They watch you rise, again and again. After every blow they think would take you down. To them, it looks like luck, or some fluke beyond explanation. But what they don't realize is that you're not playing by their rules at all. Their whole world is governed by karma, cause and effect, action and reaction, a system they believe is unbreakable. You, however, operate on a different plane. You move according to a divine assignment that insulates you from their predictable cycles. Every setback they see isn't a failure. It's a stepping stone, a resurrection disguised as loss. You've been divinely shielded in ways they can't see or understand. Where they expect you to be worn down, you become stronger. Where they see dead ends, you find new beginnings. This isn't chance. It's destiny acting through you, bending reality in ways their logic can't touch. Because their minds are trapped in the idea of balance and retribution, your ability to keep thriving breaks their understanding. It's like you exist outside their karmic system entirely. They can't calculate or predict your moves because you don't respond to the energy of the past. You respond to the calling of the future. That's what shocks them the most. You shattered the invisible rules they swear by. You rewrote the script of cause and effect. You proved that spiritual assignments are stronger than worldly laws. This dissonance rattles them because you are living proof that the universe has layers they haven't even begun to comprehend, and you're walking in one they'll never access. Number 14. You didn't win. You ascended. You didn't win in the way they understand victory, with battles fought and trophies claimed. You ascended beyond their petty competitions and their desperate struggles for approval. While they wasted their energy scrambling for validation, scrambling to prove themselves in arenas that only feed ego, you were busy constructing something no one could touch, your inner sanctuary. You were building resilience, peace, and a strength that can't be measured by outside forces. They expected you to retaliate, to fall into the trap of revenge and bitterness. They thought that would be your downfall, that seeing you respond with grace and growth would shatter their spirits, but instead you chose something far more powerful: transcendence. You refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing you dragged down to their level. You took the high road not out of weakness, but out of unshakable confidence. That's what broke them. The greatest punishment for betraying a chosen one isn't confrontation or destruction. It's watching that person thrive beyond all expectations, untouchable and unbothered. Your success isn't a comeback. It's a rise above their narrative, a living proof that their attempts to break you only fueled your growth. They can't wrap their heads around how you turned their negativity into your fuel, how you transform pain into power without losing your essence. This transcendence is your silent victory, one they didn't see coming because they never understood that real power isn't in fighting. It's in rising above, and that, more than anything else, leaves them stunned, lost, and powerless to touch your light. In the end, what you embody isn't just survival or strength, it's a force that rewrites the rules of existence itself. You're not just someone who made it through the storm. You are the storm's master, the calm within chaos, the spark that refuses to be extinguished. Those who are mesmerized by you don't just see a person, they see a living paradox. A truth that unsettles their comfortable illusions and challenges everything they thought they knew. Your presence is a silent declaration that there are depths and powers beyond their comprehension, and that's what leaves them utterly shocked and captivated. You didn't simply exist. You shattered expectations, dismantled facades, and rose to heights they never imagined possible. Your journey isn't just inspiring, it's a revolution in itself. A blueprint for what it means to be truly unstoppable. So as they stand in awe, confused, and mesmerized, remember this: you are the undeniable proof that when the spirit is unbreakable, the world can't help but take notice, and there's nothing more powerful than that. If this message resonated with you and you're ready to step into your own power, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Join the community where we dive deep into the truths that shake the world and lift the chosen ones. Like this video if it sparked something inside you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story and your awakening, and share this with someone who needs to see it right now. Together we're building something unstoppable. Stay powerful, stay unshakable.